Have the co-chairs of the 10,000 Small Businesses Advisory Council, Chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, and former independent mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg. And we should mention that Goldman Sachs is a partial sponsor of our show this morning. Good to have you all on board.
Great to have you guys here.
Warren,
this is fantastic.
I will be asking you at some point about Burger King, Tim Hortons.
Good.
I still don't get it, but I can't wait to hear your answer. That's a deep tease.
She's tough. Lloyd, I want to start with you, Lloyd, because this obviously was an idea of your company a long time ago. We have been going from town to town, done this in quite a few different places. But how exciting in a place like Detroit where economic revival is starting, that we see behind us the American dream in full growth.
You mean this low-energy crowd behind us here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're fired up.
No, Detroit is the perfect place to do it. We see this all over America. Very entrepreneurial people who are just at the tipping point of success. I mean, we're finding people who are already pretty terrific, who already have ongoing businesses, and with a little education, a little confidence building, courses on negotiation, teaching some skills, gets them over the tipping point and unleashes a lot of energy.
And Warren, you've obviously been talking about what needs to be done to make sure that we regrow the middle class and make the middle class stronger. Why is a program like this so important, and why is it so important actually that politicians in Washington start focusing on helping small business owners, entrepreneurs, startups?
Yeah, well, these people are helping themselves, and they're getting terrific help from educators in the process, and really, we get a very positive selection of who enters. These are the people that really. They've already gotten to a point. I mean, they have businesses, but they want to get ahead, and they're learning things in the course that are going to help them the rest of their lives. And you can see it in the results of the groups that have already graduated in terms of adding employment, adding many dollars of business, and the success has been terrific throughout the country.
And Mika, if this country is going to continue its economic revival, we're going to do it one small business at a time. Doesn't matter if Wall Street is having record-setting days. It's not Wall Street, it's Main Street that helps us come back.
And that's what this program's about. It really does sort of jumpstart people's personal economies, helps them grow businesses. It has a 99% graduation rate. After 6 months of graduating from 10,000 small businesses, people are hiring. People are growing their businesses. It is proven, and Detroit needs a proven option. Valerie, what can Washington learn from how this program works in a city like this, which has its problems?
It has its challenges, but it also has enormous opportunities, and I think Detroit is a perfect example of what can happen when the private sector, the civic community, which in this city is robust and strong, and the government, state, local, and federal, all partner together. Federal government has invested $300 million here. Just last week, we announced investing $12.2 million in an incredible rail system that's going to go through the heart of downtown, but that leveraged tenfold private sector investments. But before I go any further, got a present for you from Dina Powell.
From Dina.
Yes, from Mika. This is, I heard you were coveting this T-shirt, right?
I'm going to put it on.
Put it on.
While the mayor's talking.
And Joe, because I didn't want to leave you out, because you know how you get when you get left out.
Oh, it's just horrible.
A hat. Pure Detroit.
I love it.
That's great.
Because we want to thank you for getting out of the bubble and into the heartbeat of America and putting a spotlight on what works. And that's what works right here behind us.
Yeah.
Got it.
I love it. Mr. Mayor, I want to talk about, you obviously ran an extraordinarily complex city for a very long time. Talk about how small businesses fit in, the type of small businesses that you all are helping grow here in Detroit and across the country. How does that fit in with like a revival for a city like Detroit?
Well, for a start, Joe, every big business started out as a small business.
Right.
So you have to, somebody had a vision, somebody put the work into it, somebody didn't pay attention to the doubters, and they created something. And in New York City.
And by the way, that's the case with you too, that, anybody that knows your story knows you only got started in your own business because things didn't work out in a previous business for you.
Well, both Lloyd and I, he didn't get hired by Goldman, and I turned Goldman down. That's the thing we have in common.
Wow.
Oh, my Lord.
we were talking backstage. Lloyd and I would not get hired, perhaps, in the fancier firms in this day and age.
Right.
Different skill sets that we have are from what they're looking for, and I think in many cases they're looking for the wrong thing. In New York City, we tried to create jobs for the skill sets of the people that needed jobs.
Right.
And so you got to look and see what's the objective here. Going and creating jobs that nobody has the skills to do,
right,
doesn't, or that the society doesn't need, is a waste of time. But in New York, we managed to create the kind of jobs and put an awful lot of people to work.
Colleges are failing that way, aren't they? A lot of people are spending too much money to get skill sets that don't apply to 21st century challenges.
Well,
unlike the people behind us here.
The question is, why are you going to school? Is it to get the skills for a career or to be a well-rounded person? And I think we have to have a balance and do both.
Right.
And if you just focus on one, you're not going to have the kind of opportunities that you'd like to have.
So last night we celebrated one of the 10,000 small business soon-to-be graduates here in Detroit at McClure's Pickles. And Joe and I were working the assembly line, and then Lloyd jumped in, and
he won, of course.
It was quite a scene, I will say. I ended up with pickles all over my face.
Yeah.
So Lloyd, stick to your day job.
Lloyd,
okay?
I'm competitive. I don't know what came over me.
He was like Lucy on the assembly line.
Ethel.
Lucille Ball.
Yeah,
I was Ethel.
You won.
I won.
Just saying,
just for the
Lloyd.
record.
Just saying.
But here's a great example,
It's a
though,
great story.
Lloyd. Here's a story of two guys that actually take a recipe 100
Brothers,
years old.
family
They
recipe.
started in Brooklyn.
Grandma Lala.
And then decided to come home
Right.
and build out this business here. And they're expanding.
Yeah.
Look, we didn't create these guys. They created themselves to that point.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they're a little bit topped out. They don't know how to get to the next level. They have a few employees. They have opportunity. You take them in and you teach them a little bit how to do business planning. You tell them how to do negotiation, accounting, how to deal with HR issues. They take that business plan, the business plan that essentially was their term paper at the end of this program. They walk it over to the bank, and immediately they get financing.
Amazing.
Immediately with the finance, they go out and buy some more equipment, and they hire 2 more people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very virtuous circle.
Yeah, you know, Warren, I say all the time on the show that I'm sick and tired of people betting against America. You know, we hear 2 or 3 years ago, oh, the Chinese are going to take over.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, you know, this sounds an awful lot like 1989, the Japan that could say no. And I loved what you did when we were at our lowest point in the fall of 2008. You said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bet a couple of $2 billion on America. And I love what you said. You said, I'm not doing this to be nice. No. I'm doing this because I want to make my shareholders money. You bet on America when a lot of people were betting against America. Will you please tell people that watch the show every day, a lot of influencers out there, will you please tell them just how good things look for this country on over the next 25 years if we do things right?
The luckiest person in history that's been born is the baby being born in the United States today. I mean, this country, since 1776, anybody's bet against it has made a terrible, terrible mistake. And in the fall of 2008, it looked kind of gloomy. And in 3 weeks, we invested $15.5 billion in American industry at that time.
All right, so.
And how did that turn out for you, betting on America when everybody else was betting against America?
Worked out pretty well, thanks to guys like this. Part of it was in Goldman Sachs.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So speaking on investing in America, let me ask you about this Burger King Tim Horton deal.
Yeah.
A lot of people are calling it a corporate inversion. Isn't it a corporate inversion, and doesn't that go against everything you stand for?
No, it is a corporate inversion, and many corporate inversions are tax driven. But there's one fact that in all the reporting has been totally overlooked. This figure has not been seen anyplace. People say that Burger King is doing this to avoid federal taxes. The highest amount of federal tax that Burger King has paid in any of the last 3 years, highest amount, has been $30 million. They are paying $11.8 billion for the acquisition. Now, if anybody would be paying $11.8 billion to say $30 million of federal income tax, they did not go to the math course that I went to. Burger King in the last 20 years has been owned twice by 100% by foreign corporations. It's been owned by the British. It was owned by Grand Metropolitan Stores. It was owned by Diageo. So this is not anything new. But Tim Hortons is twice the size of Burger King. And like I say, there's $30 million of tax that's been paid to the federal government.
But the taxes will be lower now as a result of this deal, no matter what the cost of the deal.
Not necessarily, because the tax-driven inversions usually have a bunch of trapped cash overseas, or they can transfer intellectual property or something of the sort. Well, there isn't a whole lot of intellectual property to transfer with hamburgers. I mean, it's very hard to have transfer prices for hamburgers.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And this is not a case of trapped cash. It's not a case of intellectual property. It's a case of the larger company being in Canada. Tim Hortons earns twice as much money as Burger King, and the Canadian government has to approve it, and they have a law up there that would not allow it.
Mr. Mayor, we have to go to break, but I have to ask you really quickly, how do you feel about the future of Detroit? How do you feel about the future of this country?
When people vote with their feet, they come to America. Detroit is one of those cities that's been down in its luck, but it's got a great new mayor. It's got a great governor who really cares about the city. It's got some philanthropic people like Eli Broad who raise money from a number of people to help the city. And this is a place for new entrepreneurs to go and to start. You can get space. You don't have the overcrowding and the competition they have elsewhere. The only thing this city misses is more entrepreneurs from around the world coming here. And if we could let people from around the world come to Detroit, they would help people like those behind us create more businesses, create more jobs. That's what America was built for, and that's what we need.
And Valerie, you and I have done these graduations. This is going to be awesome today.
Absolutely. I am so proud to be here and have a chance to speak and celebrate their success from not just the program, but what they're going to do in the future.
A great break
They
from
rock.
Washington. Lloyd Blankfein, Valerie Jarrett,
Thank you guys
Warren
so
Buffett,
much.
Michael Bloomberg.